Maybe you're not lost at all. Maybe you're just standing in the hallway between two worlds. That feeling you have, that sense of not belonging anywhere, of floating between identities, between versions of yourself, what if it's not a problem to be solved? What if it's exactly where you need to be? By the end of this, you'll understand why this place between isn't just important to your journey, it's the most sacred part of it.
You know the feeling. You wake up and the world looks the same, but somehow it doesn't feel the same. The job that once gave you purpose now feels like you're wearing someone else's clothes. The relationships that used to energize you leave you feeling hollow, like you're speaking a language everyone understands, but you've somehow forgotten. You scroll through social media and see people celebrating achievements that once mattered to you, and now you feel nothing. Not jealousy, not inspiration, just a vast, quiet emptiness where your desires used to live. Maybe you've tried rejoining old groups, old conversations, old versions of yourself, but it's like trying to fit into clothes from 10 years ago. They don't quite fit anymore, and forcing yourself into them only makes you more aware of how much you've changed. Here's what I need you to understand. You are not a mistake on the map. The map itself is being redrawn. What you're experiencing isn't failure. It's metamorphosis in real time. And metamorphosis, by its very nature, requires a space between what was and what will be.
You know that feeling when you're moving from one house to another, and for weeks, maybe months, you're living surrounded by boxes? Your old home doesn't feel like home anymore because you've already started letting go. But your new place, it's just walls and potential. Nothing feels familiar. Nothing feels like you yet. You're living in the hallway between two worlds, and every day feels like you're stepping over moving boxes that contain pieces of who you used to be. This is where you are right now. You're between worlds. Carl Jung understood this liminal space better than almost anyone. He wrote about the threshold, that sacred, terrifying space where transformation happens. But here's what most people don't realize about crossing any threshold. You can't take your old identity with you. Think about it. When a butterfly emerges from its cocoon, it doesn't get to keep being a caterpillar on weekends. The old form has to dissolve before the new one can emerge. And there's this moment, this suspended, vulnerable moment where you're neither what you were nor what you're becoming. You're in the corridor. You're in the dissolving. And Jung knew something else that might change everything for you. This space between identities isn't a mistake. It's a requirement. You can't step into who you're meant to become while still clinging to who you used to be. The corridor isn't punishment, it's preparation. Those boxes scattered around you, they're not evidence that you're lost. They're evidence that you're brave enough to pack up a life that no longer fits and trust that there's something better waiting.
This corridor you're living in, it's deeply uncomfortable for a reason. Your brain wasn't designed to handle uncertainty. It's wired for patterns, for knowing where you stand, for solid ground beneath your feet. But this space between worlds, it's anything but solid. This transitional space refuses to be a fixed place. It shifts beneath you just when you think you found your footing. One day you feel like you're making progress, like you can see the door to your new life cracking open. The next day, you're back to feeling completely unmoored, questioning everything you thought you knew about yourself. Your brain hates this. It's scanning constantly, desperately seeking shortcuts back to the familiar. Go back to the old job. Call that ex. Move back to your hometown. Pick up that habit you swore you'd never touch again. Anything to stop this terrible not knowing. But here's what's really happening in this space. Your old connections are dissolving faster than new ones can form. Think about it like this. Imagine your neural pathways as well-worn hiking trails. For years, maybe decades, you've walked the same paths. I am this kind of person. I react this way. I belong here. This is what success looks like for me. Those trails are deep, automatic, comfortable. But transformation requires new trails to be carved through untouched terrain. And while you're bushwhacking through the unknown, creating these new pathways one careful step at a time, those old trails, they're already starting to disappear. Weeds are growing over them. The markers that once guided you home are fading. You're not lost. You're just learning to see with different eyes. And I promise you this, by the end of our time together, you'll discover something that changes everything. You're not stuck in this corridor waiting for permission to move forward. You're not trapped between worlds hoping someone will come rescue you. You're already crossing over. You just haven't learned to recognize the signs yet.
Picture yourself on a suspension bridge shrouded in fog. You can't see where you came from. That side has disappeared into the mist. You can't see your destination. It's hidden somewhere ahead in the swirling gray. All you can see is the single wooden plank directly beneath your feet, and maybe, if you squint, the next step forward. This is exactly where you are right now, and this is exactly where you need to be. The first rule of navigating between worlds: stop searching for the old ground. Your mind will keep turning around, straining to glimpse the solid shore you left behind. Maybe I can still go back. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe the old life wasn't so bad after all. But that ground, it's gone. Not because you burned bridges, but because you've grown beyond it. You literally cannot fit into that old shape anymore. Every moment you spend looking backward is energy stolen from the step in front of you. The second rule: learn to read the subtle signs of the new world arriving. They won't arrive as grand announcements. The new world whispers before it speaks. It sends scouts before the main army arrives. You might notice a conversation that sparks something you haven't felt in years. A book that seems to jump off the shelf into your hands. A random opportunity that coincidentally aligns with a dream you barely admitted to yourself. A new kind of energy in your body when you move toward certain choices. People who seem to see something in you that you're just beginning to see yourself. These aren't accidents. They're breadcrumbs leading you home to yourself. The third rule: create micro-rituals to anchor yourself in the present step. When everything feels uncertain, make something certain. Not big, dramatic gestures, small, consistent acts that remind you that you have agency, even in the fog. Every morning, write down one thing you're curious about that day. Take a different route to somewhere familiar and notice what you see. Ask yourself, what wants to emerge through me today? And listen for the answer. And each day, by acknowledging one small way you moved forward, even if it felt like standing still. The fourth rule: trust that the bridge knows how to hold you. This suspension bridge you're on, it was built by everyone who has ever stood between worlds. Every person who has ever left the familiar for the unknown has added a cable, a plank, a support beam. You're not the first person to cross this way, and the bridge has never failed. The fog isn't your enemy, it's your protection. If you could see the full journey ahead, your mind would find 1,000 reasons to retreat. The fog ensures you can only take this one step, then this one, then this one. And that's all transformation has ever required. One illuminated step at a time. The destination will reveal itself not when you arrive, but as you walk. Each step forward shifts the fog, unveils the next plank, adjusts your view of what's possible. You don't need to see the end to trust the path. You just need to take the step that's lit up right in front of you. But here's what most people don't understand about this sacred space between worlds. It's not a place to escape from. It's where the real magic happens. Think about the butterfly in its cocoon. For weeks, it exists in complete darkness, suspended between what it was and what it's becoming. Its old body literally dissolves, scientists call it histolysis, breaking down into a soup of cells that will reorganize into something entirely new. The caterpillar doesn't just grow wings, the caterpillar becomes wings. This is you right now. You're not broken, you're dissolving into your next form. The cocoon stage is the most crucial part of transformation, and it cannot be rushed. Inside that dark, cramped space, there's no movement that looks like progress, no visible growth, no external validation that anything worthwhile is happening. Just the quiet, uncomfortable work of becoming. And if you try to break out too early, if you slice open the cocoon because the waiting feels unbearable, you don't get a butterfly. You get something that dies because it wasn't ready for the world it was meant to inhabit. Your between space is your cocoon. This is where your old identity stops making sense, but your new one hasn't fully formed yet. Where your old coping strategies don't work, but you haven't learned new ones. Where people ask, "What are you up to these days?" and you have no clean answer that fits in a social media post. This discomfort you're feeling, this restlessness, this sense that you should be doing something more productive than just existing in the uncertainty, that's the sound of your wings forming. Every day you resist the urge to crawl back into familiar patterns that no longer serve you, you're growing flight muscles. Every night you go to bed without having figured it all out, you're developing the wings that will carry you into your next chapter. The cocoon isn't punishment, it's preparation. And the most beautiful part? You don't emerge from this space as a slightly improved version of who you were. You emerge as someone you couldn't have even imagined becoming when you first entered the darkness. The butterfly doesn't remember being a caterpillar. It doesn't cling to its old way of moving through the world. It doesn't try to crawl along the ground because that feels safer than flight. It trusts its wings. It trusts the sky. It trusts that it was designed for a kind of freedom it never knew was possible. So stop trying to rush your emergence. Stop apologizing for not having your life figured out yet. You're not behind. You're right on time. You're exactly where transformation requires you to be. In the quiet, uncomfortable space between who you were and who you're becoming, your wings are taking shape. Trust the cocoon. Trust the darkness. Trust the process that's unfolding in you, even when, especially when, you can't see it happening. Your wings are coming.
So what happens now? What do you do with this knowledge that you're not lost, you're just between worlds? First, you stop fighting it. You stop treating this transition like a problem to solve and start treating it like a sacred process to honor. You give yourself permission to not have all the answers right now. Second, you start paying attention. In the quiet moments between your old life and your new one, there are whispers of who you're becoming. Dreams that feel more real than your waking life. Conversations that light you up in ways you can't explain. Random moments of clarity that feel like messages from your future self. These aren't coincidences. They're breadcrumbs. Follow them. Third, you trust your timing. The world will try to convince you that there's some universal schedule you should be following, that by a certain age you should have certain things figured out. But butterflies don't emerge from their cocoons because someone told them it was time. They emerge when they're ready to fly. Your emergence will happen when you're ready. Not a moment sooner, not a moment later. The truth is, some of the most extraordinary people in history lived most of their lives between worlds. They were the ones who refused to settle for the obvious path, who were willing to sit in the discomfort of not knowing, who trusted that their transition had purpose even when they couldn't see it.
You are one of them. Right now, in this moment, you are exactly where you need to be. Not lost, not broken, not behind. You're in the sacred space between what was and what will be, and that makes you part of something magnificent. Your old world is dissolving, so your new world can be born. And when you're ready, when your wings are strong enough, when your vision is clear enough, when your heart is brave enough, you won't just step into your new life, you'll soar into it. But here's what I want you to know more than anything else. You don't have to navigate this journey alone. The space between worlds can feel isolating, but it doesn't have to be. In the next video in this series, I'm going to share with you the exact framework I use to help people not just survive their transition, but thrive in it. We'll talk about how to read the signs your future self is sending you, how to build bridges between where you are and where you're going, and most importantly, how to find your community of fellow travelers who understand exactly what this journey feels like. Because here's what I've learned. The space between worlds isn't meant to be traveled alone. Click that link below to watch the next video. It's time to stop seeing your transition as something to endure and start seeing it as something to embrace. Your wings are ready. Now, let's learn how to use them. Remember, you're not lost. You never were. You're just between worlds, and that's exactly where transformation happens. Trust the journey. Trust the process. Trust yourself. Your new world is waiting.